names in the game, join ESPN's Adrian Wojnarowski for in-depth conversations, breaking news, reaction, and analysis.
Well, if you're looking to sell short euro, it's time to sell short, and I'm placing an order to sell it at 121.44.5. And as you can see, position opened at 121.44.5. Okay?
It's on TuneIn. Just find your favorite podcast and tap the 3 dots to download the episode you want to hear. When you're off the grid, you'll find all your offline audio under your favorites.
Ready for the loudest, most correct sports opinions in the history of the spoken word?
Feels great. We got it cleaned the other day. It's already dirty again, but that's what we like.
On Pardon My Take, a.k.a. your favorite new sports podcast, Big Cat and PFT Commenter bring you daily topics, special guests, and a money-back guarantee for a better life.
Passes are so bad. It was pass interference, but the pass was so bad, you're like, but it can't be pass interference.
Search Pardon My Take on TuneIn to listen. Got your resolutions all set? Why not add another to the list and follow TuneIn on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter?
Add TuneIn.
It's the easiest way to discover new audio to soundtrack the new year.
Ready to take your audio love to the next level?
Perhaps it's time you tried out TuneIn Premium.
Experience a better way of listening with commercial-free news, coverage from CNN, Fox News Radio, MSNBC, and more.
We likely, almost certainly, are going to be vaccinating them.
Non-stop music channels for every mood and activity.
And less ads on 100,000 radio stations.
Search Premium on TuneIn
to try it today.
Ever wonder what Tony Kornheiser is thinking about today? Wonder no more with The Tony Kornheiser Show, a daily podcast that starts with sports and quickly moves into politics, current events, entertainment, and whatever happens to be on Tony's mind.
No, I didn't buy them.
I got to
Your
jump
mother
in.
bought them.
Whoppers are so great.
I like
individually,
Whoppers.
but not in a.
There's
in
only
a mixed
3.
bag.
They only come 3. The portion is.
Search The Tony Kornheiser Show on TuneIn to listen.
Broadcasting live from the Bloomberg Interactive Broker Studio in New York. Bloomberg 1130 to Washington, D.C. Bloomberg 99.1 to Boston. Bloomberg 106.1 to San Francisco. Bloomberg 960 to the country. Sirius XM Channel 119. And around the globe, the Bloomberg Business app and BloombergRadio.com. This is Bloomberg Markets.
Coming up, we're going to continue to follow this story about market volatility as the VIX, lower today but still at 29, continues its trajectory. We have Aaron Brown, former Chief Risk Manager at AQR Capital Management and Bloomberg Opinion columnist coming right up. Let's get now to Greg Jarrett for Bloomberg Business Flash.
Thank you, Bonnie. The S&P is slumping again as day traders bids for heavily shorted stocks fuel speculation. Hedge funds would need to reduce their market exposure. 10-year Treasury yields have climbed toward 1.1% after Johnson & Johnson said its one-shot vaccine generated strong protection against COVID-19, though it's less effective against the South African variant. Citron quits a part of its research business. In a video tweet, Andrew left. Citron Research says the firm is ending short-selling research.
Now, after 20 years, we noticed something. Where we started Citron was to be against the establishment. We've actually become the establishment. We've done this whole thing without ever hiding from lawsuits, without ever hiding behind a pseudonym. But it's completely now lost its focus. So as of today, Citron Research will no longer be publishing what can be considered as short-selling reports.
Let's check the markets now. The S&P's down 0.4%, down 15. The Dow's down 0.5%, down 166. And the Nasdaq's down 0.3%, down 36. The 10-year's down 10, 30 seconds with a yield of 1.08%. West Texas Intermediate crude oil is up 1.1% at $52.93 a barrel, with COMEX gold up 1.1% at $18.6220 an ounce. The dollar yen, 104.71. The euro's $1.2145, and the pound $1.3721. Gauge of U.S. pending home sales fell for the 4th consecutive month in December, reflecting further weakness in the Midwest as rising prices slowed momentum in the housing market. That's a Bloomberg Business Flash. I'm Greg Jarrett.
Bloomberg Opinion, informed perspectives, and expert data-driven commentary on breaking news.
It is 10:33 on Wall Street, time for Bloomberg Opinion. Today we're joined by Aaron Brown. He's a columnist for Bloomberg Opinion, also the former chief risk manager at AQR Capital Management based in New York City. Aaron, thanks so much for joining us here. So as we take a look at this day trading phenomenon, the GameStops, the AMCs of the world, first of all, are you surprised that a hedge fund, the size and the expertise of Melvin Capital Management with billions under assets under management, are you surprised that they were hurt so badly at the beginning of this?
Muslim mayor of a major Western capital, and proud of it.
Shorting and market arbitrage has always been a very risky game,
to a lawyer,
and
lawmaker, and now the mayor of London.
It's just par for the course. Normally, you make some easy money, but once in a while,
Khan's parents
you get
emigrated
killed
from
on a trade
Pakistan.
like this. It's
His father was a bus driver, his mother a stay-at-home seamstress.
It's a tiny little bit reminiscent of LTCM, right? I mean, you would have imagined that
in South London.
he either wouldn't leave traces,
but TV in the
Gabe Plotkin that is, or that he would have some other kind of trade on that might mitigate any potential danger to this huge short.
He graduated in 1991
hedge funds
with a degree in law
this
from
type
London
are in the
University
business of
and joined a
taking
human
risks,
rights
making
firm.
big directional
Khan worked a
positions,
number of
and
high-profile
you do
cases,
take your
often
lumps
clashing
sometimes,
with London's
and we've
Metropolitan
seen some
Police
of the most
Force.
successful
But
traders.
he had bigger
LTCM is a good
political
example.
ambitions.
Amaranth is another
This
example.
is what being a new MP is like, squatting on a bench in the absence of an office, dealing with letters from constituents.
The people who are low risk, the people who are hedging everything, who get out,
reports are just coming in of an explosion.
Those people survive, but they don't make the giant profits.
And then it just smoked everywhere.
Everyone's just asking.
So, Aaron, I mean, short selling and short squeezes have been around since the beginning of financial markets. I guess what's different about this one is the advent and the use of social media, number one, and number two, the zero fee or zero commission trading, which really opens it up to a much wider audience here. Are you surprised that Robinhood yesterday and some other of these platforms chose to limit trading in some of these names?
Thomas Penny, one of Bloomberg's Westminster
I wasn't surprised by Robinhood. Robinhood has been under very intense regulatory pressure, a lot of suspicion, and I think Robinhood is going to have to protect itself from this kind of thing. I was
in 2015, a decade after the attacks, Khan ran for mayor of London, and his faith was back in the headlines. His opponent, Zach Goldsmith, trying to link Khan to radical Islam.
All these politicians and people are suddenly shocked to find out they're day traders and gambling.
Extreme and accused him of associating with, quote, those who seek to do our police and capital.
It's just a lot more prominent.
Even the former Prime Minister David Cameron repeated the allegations.
Some of the Robinhood concentrated and make it more obvious.
The man who trained the ringleader of the 7/7 attacks and accused the United States of bringing 9/11 on themselves.
A little bit in 2021.
But the smears didn't stick.
Aaron, would you have approved this trade, or if it started smaller, would you have approved the expansion of it as time went on?
This election.
I mean, Craig, the Melvin trade is what I'm saying, not the Robinhood trades.
And I'm so proud.
I was a risk manager for a very different kind of hedge fund, a very, a quant fund that was very low risk strategy, very carefully
After taking the mayor's office with a comfortable majority, Khan has brought a business-like efficiency to the role, scrapping expensive vanity projects like the Garden Bridge and the new Routemaster buses, which cost £350,000
if you're not willing to take these kinds of
risks. The
risks,
former lawyer who used to fight the police in court.
Aaron, do you expect regulators, Congress, regulators, the SEC to step in here in a meaningful way, or is this something that might just blow over?
Well, the problem, they're all obviously, excited about it. They would love to do something about it, but nobody knows what to do. I suspect what's going to happen is there's going to be more restriction on small investors.
Khan's kept his faith at the fore. He's an outspoken voice for moderate Muslims
people on Robinhood who are playing with $100. This is a great. Everybody makes mistakes in the market. You don't want to make these at 50 when you're betting your house and you got a family to support your retirement.
Given the impression,
do it at 100 when you're a college student
you're playing into the hands of the extremists. The ongoing spat between Khan and US President Donald Trump escalated when Trump went after Khan, misquoting him on Twitter just hours after the terrorist attacks of June 3rd.
Stop on profit. Euro, I'm placing at 121.42.5. 142.5. Okay, stop placed. So whatever happened, guys, you will not be loser. You will make a profit, yeah? So never place stop loss. Always play. I don't know why brokers call it stop loss. Stop on profit. Supposed to be called, right? Okay, speak to you later, guys.
And things are reopening. I think we've done some very fundamental shifts over the last 12 months now.
Yes.
In the economy, and we haven't seen them. They're underground.
Well, Aaron, you'll have to come back and tell us more about that, because it's that's what they call a tease. We'll need you back soon. Aaron Brown, former Chief Risk Manager at EUR Capital Management. Let's get down to D.C. now for all of the D.C. news with Nathan Hager.
Well, Vonnie, in its most specific comments yet about the recent stock market mania, the Securities and Exchange Commission says it is looking for potential misconduct and will review brokers' decisions to halt trading in certain shares. This comes as progressive Democrats and populist Republicans alike are criticizing Robinhood and other platforms for curbing trades in GameStop and other social media favorites that have seen wild swings in recent days. In a tweet, Democrat Ro Khanna said Robinhood CEO Vlad Tenev needs to disclose any talks his company may have had with Citadel. Tenev says it took action on those shares to protect the firm and customers. The White House says President Joe Biden is going to sign his immigration orders on Tuesday. The president had originally planned to do that today, but Press Secretary Jen Psaki says the orders have been held up due to the delayed confirmation for Homeland Security nominee Alejandro Mayorkas. Psaki says the president will announce a task force on immigration to be led by the new Homeland Secretary. President Biden's push to reopen schools in 100 days during the pandemic may fall short. Bloomberg's Amy Morris reports.
The top infectious disease specialist in the U.S., Dr. Anthony Fauci, told the National Education Association during a virtual event that opening all the K-8 schools may not happen. He says there may be, in his words, mitigating circumstances that would make that 100-day goal difficult to achieve in some places, as first reported by CNN. Fauci told the 6,000 teachers they can expect support from Washington to fund sanitation upgrades and other safety measures. In Washington, I'm Amy Morris, Bloomberg Radio.
Global news 24 hours a day on air and on Bloomberg Quick Take, powered by more than 2,700 journalists and analysts in more than 120 countries. This is Bloomberg.
Got your resolutions all set? Why not add another to the list and follow TuneIn on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter?
Add TuneIn.
It's the easiest way to discover new audio to soundtrack the new year.
Want to know what's happening in the football universe? Pass it over to the ESPN FC podcast to hear the worldwide leader in sports break down news, highlights, and analysis from the most popular sport in the world.
Going into this, you're just not going to scare anybody.
Yeah.
Zinedine Zidane said it's like a final because if they lose this game, then they have 1 point from 3 matches.
Search ESPN FC on TuneIn to listen.
Ever wonder what life is really like as a professional hockey player?
To change the world? A big army?
On the Spit and Chicklets podcast, NHL vet.
Okay, I'm gonna move my stop on profit to 121.39.5. Okay, stop moved, profit. So if you're following the trades, do the same things, okay? See you later.
On TuneIn to listen.
Government secrets, classified documents, and leaked emails from some of the world's
This week on the New Yorker Radio Hour,
and
I'll
in
talk
doing
with staff
so,
writers
has been
Jane
labeled
Mayer
a
and
hero,
Evan
a
Osnos
villain,
about
a
the
nihilist,
balance of
and
power
everything
in
in
Washington.
between. This is how
Democrats
an
raising
Australian
control of
programmer
Congress,
sequestered in the
the
Ecuadorian
Republican
embassy
infighting
in
over the
London
insurrection,
became one of the
and
most
the ambitious
influential
first
and
100 days
notorious
plan
people in the
of
world.
President Biden. That's the New Yorker
Born in
Radio Hour,
1971 in
WNYC
Townsville,
Studios.
Australia, Assange has
Listen
always
to
been
this
on the
episode
move.
on
Living in
TuneIn
over 30 homes by the time he was in his mid-teens, Assange, along with his mother and half-brother, finally settled
Have you
down in
heard the
Melbourne.
most
His
unscripted,
introduction to hacking
unfiltered,
started
and
at 16
unhinged
when
sports
he was
show
given
in
a
the game?
Commodore 64,
On the
which
Skip
he
and
attached
Shannon
to a modem.
Undisputed
He attended
podcast,
the University
Skip
of Melbourne,
Bayless,
where he
Shannon
studied
Sharp, and
programming,
Jenny
physics,
Tapp
and
discuss
mathematics.
the
He
biggest
never
stories in the
graduated,
world of
but that
sports.
doesn't
Father
mean he
Time
didn't get an
is
education.
at least sort of
By
looking over
1991,
one shoulder
Assange
right
hacked
now.
into the Pentagon,
LeBron,
U.S.
you remember
Navy,
me?
and other
The
branches
one
of
thing
the U.S.
he would
government.
skip, because,
In
okay, they
1996,
cut
he
some
was caught
games
by the
last year. That
Australian
was
federal
10, 12
police and
games
charged with over
that he
30
averaged
counts of
25. That's
hacking
another
computer
250,
related
275
Search
points.
He didn't
Skip
get
and Shannon
any jail
on
time,
TuneIn
but
to
he was
listen.
fined $2,100.
America's
I think the
pastime
first
is a big
taste of
deal.
what would come later
It's
was
also
hacking
big
into the
business.
young programmer, and
Baseball
that
Biz
really
is the
sort of
podcast
foreshadowed
about
a
the
healthy
business of
skepticism
baseball,
of
covering
the use
everything
and
from
abuse
MLB
of
history and
technology by
operations
government.
to
That's
interviews
Vernon
with players,
Silver.
I'm a
agents,
reporter for
owners,
Bloomberg's
scouts,
investigations.
umpires, and
Assange's youth
beyond.
as a
We have the
hacker
regular
laid the
baseball
foundation
season.
for him
We
to start
get
WikiLeaks
all
in
involved with
2006.
everything with
But
the
what
World
is
Series.
WikiLeaks?
Thank goodness, it's the most
It's a
exciting thing you
website
have.
that
But
posts
then you say, what
unfiltered,
happens
usually
after that? Well,
classified
you
documents.
hear
Search
there's
Baseball
What
Biz
separates it
in
from
one
every
word
other
on
media
TuneIn
outlet
to
is that they
listen.
have no editorial hierarchy. With a
Gotta
publication
catch
like
a
the New York
flight?
Times, information comes in,
Long
they
road
take that
trip ahead?
information, package it, then disseminate it for the
Wi-Fi
public to see.
connection spotty?
WikiLeaks, however,
Make
cuts
sure
out the
you're
middleman.
never without something to listen to by offlining your podcasts on TuneIn. Just find your favorite podcast and tap the three dots to download the episode you want to hear. When you're off the grid, you'll find all your offline audio under your favorites.
Creator, and really, because he thinks of it as a journalistic enterprise, the editor.
You're working from home,
Every
right?
story starts with a
Why
source.
not make your background
Assange
listening more
has some
enjoyable with
unconventional
TuneIn Premium?
sources.
TuneIn Premium is your key to unlocking commercial-free news coverage from CNN, Fox News Radio, MSNBC, and more.
Now, let's turn back to politics.
Plus
That's Eli
non-stop
Lake.
music channels for every mood and activity.
And there was no source bigger for Assange than Chelsea Manning, who used to be known as
Not
U.S.
to mention
soldier
less ads on
Bradley.
over
In
100,000 radio
2010, Manning
stations
provided
from around
Assange
the
and
world.
WikiLeaks
Search
with
Premium
hundreds of
to
thousands
hear
of
for yourself.
government documents.
Not
WikiLeaks
sure what
quietly
to
began
listen to
releasing the
next?
documents in
Well, here's this
February
week's top
2010,
3 things to
then
listen
made
on
big
TuneIn.
headlines in April
Get ready
by
for a
posting what
fresh
is now
perspective
known
on the
as the
sports world
collateral
with First
murder
Take
video.
Her Take, the new female-led spin-off of ESPN's First Take. Now that Joe Biden has been sworn in as America's 46th president, catch up on his first days in office with live, on-demand coverage from your favorite news source. Hear the latest and greatest hits coming out of Nashville. With
Those
TuneIn's top
leaks were just
station
the
for country
beginning.
music,
They went on to
Country
post more
Roads.
than 90,000
Find these and more trending audio on the
Afghan
homepage
war
of the
logs,
TuneIn app.
390,000 documents
Break
known as
down
the
all the
Iraq
lines
war
and
logs,
matchups
and
in
a
college
quarter of a
basketball
million
with the
private
Hoopin' with
messages
Hoops
between
podcast.
diplomats called
From power
cable in
conferences
what
like
is now
the
known as
ACC,
cable.
Big Ten, and Pac-12
These leaks
to the
were
ones
met
you've
with
never heard
very
of.
real ethical
Greg
questions.
Hoops Peterson covers it all.
We've got a tremendous podcast for you. Unlike my normal podcast where I answer some Twitter questions, take a look at what
Then
all
Secretary of
transpired
State
yesterday
Hillary
and everything
Clinton
like
drove the
that.
point home
Well,
that
this is the Saturday edition, and you guys know
Search Hoopin' with Hoops on TuneIn to listen.
The next time you're in the TuneIn app and playing your favorite station or podcast, just keep scrolling down the
Shortly
screen.
after
From
Cable
there,
Gate,
you
the
can
Swedish
quickly
government
revisit
issued
your
an arrest
recent
warrant
listening
for Assange
while
on
discovering
allegations of
personalized
rape
and
and
similar
molestation.
recommendations
He claimed
based
the
on your
allegations were
interests and
fabricated to get
location.
him
Listening to
extradited to the United
CNN,
States, a
MSNBC,
claim the
or
U.S.
Fox
government
News Radio?
denied.
Scroll to see a
Either
schedule
way,
of upcoming
Assange's next
programs.
move was
Listening to today's
to seek
hits?
refuge
Scroll
in
to
the
see the
Ecuadorian
latest
embassy,
songs you just heard. Listening to a live NHL game? Scroll to see when your team's next matchup is. Scroll and explore more
What
on
was supposed to
TuneIn.
be an office in an embassy is now Assange's self-imposed prison to this very day. But that doesn't mean he's slowed down. Since being trapped in the embassy, WikiLeaks has released files about Guantanamo Bay prisoners, Syrian political figures, and the draft of the Trans-Pacific Partnership. And then came the 2016 U.S. election.
Extra careful with things like burning yard trimming. Don't just walk away, or chances are you might be starting a wildfire.
Over the course of 68 days, WikiLeaks released 20,000 confidential Democratic National Committee emails. In terms of the presidential race, if you look right here, when Assange released the first batch of emails, Trump actually takes his first lead
like
against
New Jersey
Clinton.
Institute of Technology are fueling the innovation economy, and few people are better
better positioned to see what's on the horizon in New Jersey than physicist and state representative Andrew Zwicker.
How technology is transforming our financial
From the emails, we now know Hillary Clinton's campaign manager makes risotto, and also how the DNC squashed Bernie Sanders' campaign. One thing we don't know is who gave Assange the stolen emails in the first place.
Many leading Democrats say they suspect it was the Russians.
In an ever-growing
released an analysis from a private
how do we turn urban centers
firm
into agricultural centers?
But Assange claims
vehicles is another one where we have some of the world's leading experts and how this will transform how those who
So this is where we stand today. The public still doesn't know who provided the emails to WikiLeaks. Meanwhile, Assange is still running WikiLeaks and still releasing documents. In March 2017, he started publishing documents from the CIA's Center for Cyber Intelligence called Vault 7.
NJIT.edu/research. Finding and keeping our top secrets can't keep its own secrets.
24 hours a day.
As long as Assange has a connection to the world, no government secret will be too far from exposure.
This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
We're coming off the lows, but sort of sagging and flowing back further into the red. The equities slumped amid lingering concerns about problems created by volatile retail trading. Losses were limited earlier on optimism. Coronavirus vaccines will fuel economic growth. Treasury yields, gold, and oil are up. Let's look at those numbers. The S&P is down 0.7%, down 26. The Dow is down 0.7%, down 218. The Nasdaq's down 0.6%, down 85. The 10-year is down 12.30 seconds with a yield of 1.08%. West Texas Intermediate crude is up almost 1% at 52.84 barrel. COMEX gold is up over 1% at 18.60.40 an ounce. The dollar yen 104.81, the euro $1.21.34, and the British pound $1.37.12. GameStop paired an early sharp rally, but was still on track to get back much of yesterday's $11 billion blow after Robinhood Markets and other brokerages eased trading restrictions on the video game retailer. That's a Bloomberg Business Flash. I'm Greg Jarrett.
You're listening to Bloomberg Markets with Vonnie Quinn and Paul Sweeney on Bloomberg Radio.
Very excited to have our next guest now. I'd like to welcome in Dr. Dan Skowronski, who is Chief Scientific Officer at Eli Lilly and Company. And Eli Lilly, of course, doing a lot of work on antibody therapies on COVID. So welcome, Dr. Dan, and thank you. First of all, explain to us where you're at when it comes to the antibody work.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be on today. We have a monoclonal antibody called bamlanivimab, which is a synthetic way of boosting a person's immune system. It's currently authorized by the FDA under emergency use, and it's available in many countries around the world for the early treatment of COVID-19. So these are patients who are diagnosed with COVID-19. They're still early in their disease course. They're not hospitalized, but they have risk factors such as age or obesity or hypertension or cardiovascular disease that would suggest they could have dangerous outcomes. And what we've shown here is that this drug can reduce the risk that they end up being hospitalized or worse.
So, Doctor, where, in terms of the United States, where are we with your drug here in the U.S., and what is your time frame for, really getting it fully out to the market?
Yeah, it's already widely available. Patients should know that, and doctors should know that. About 1 million doses have been shipped already. Most healthcare institutions have it, but it's still a little tricky for patients and physicians to find it. The U.S. government, who's in charge of distributing it, has created resources. One is called Combat COVID, so combatcovid.hhs.gov. If patients click on that, they can see infusion locator, which will actually show them near their house where they can go to get it. So again, it's for patients who have just gotten diagnosed with COVID and they're high risk and worried. This is a treatment option that is available to them.
So how does it work? Is it a one-time thing? Do they continue to go back for more? And is there any data on what happens if it doesn't work or if it works in a different way than you're anticipating?
Yeah, thank you. It's a one-time infusion. So the infusion now, as of today, we've just quickened it, so it only takes it can take as little as 16 minutes. In some circumstances, it could take more. But the patient is infused with this medicine just that one day for that amount of time.
When it debuted,
usually
the 4G wireless we have today allowed people for the first time
observe the
to hit
patient,
the
make sure they don't have any adverse events
only a smartphone
for up to an hour after they administer the drug, and
it could
then the
enable
patient goes
driverless
home.
cars to take us there as well.
5G
stands for
Well, position closed, as you can see, at 121.395. Just right here. Yeah. Well done. Good.
this were widely deployed, if all the patients that could benefit got this, we could have 70% less people in hospitals. We also completely eliminated deaths. So placebo arm, unfortunately, 10 out of about 500 people died, which is consistent with what we know about COVID.
5G could end up being 100 times faster than what we have now.
On the
speeds
treatment
that
arm,
could reach 20 gigabits per second.
Deaths.
In plain English, that means downloading a full-length HD
Imagine
movie
if we can reduce hospitalizations by 70%.
5G will also increase total bandwidth, which we will need in order to accommodate the growing Internet of Things.
The vast majority of
We're talking about the class of devices
we
like
can really
internet-connected
turn what
refrigerators,
is the
thermostats,
biggest
dog
public health
collars,
crisis
but
of our
5G
lifetime
will enable many,
into a disease
many
that's much more manageable. So I just see these monoclonal antibodies in combination with vaccines, which create immunity in advance of getting the disease. This gives you immunity that helps you treat the disease. That those two things together, we can really turn the corner.
Doctor, do you have to be sick already to get this, or can you get it without being sick?
Lag time, known as latency.
Right now,
a network of driverless cars will need the speed of 5G,
so that's for people
each
who
other
are
multiple
sick.
times per second.
We also last week
near
disclosed
instantaneous
another
data
phase 3
transfers could allow
trial for
doctors
the same
to perform
drug, but
surgery
now
remotely
used in
with
people who
robotic
aren't sick yet.
scalpel. So
we
how
went
will all this
into
work?
nursing
First,
homes.
you need to improve
You have a very
network
vulnerable
density.
population, and we went to nursing homes where they're starting to have an outbreak, and we tested to see whether we could use this prophylactically.
The idea is 5G will not only use the existing mobile spectrum,
very
but also tap into higher
80% reduction
waves.
for
Millimeter
nursing
waves
home
can carry more
residents
data, but only travel short
getting
distances.
sick.
This
So in
may
other words,
mean
giving
you'll see
to
a
them in
lot more of
advance
these base stations around
prevented many of
New
them
towers may
from
have as
getting
many as
sick.
100
And again,
antenna ports,
no deaths to the people who got the treatment.
So when will we get 5G?
A number
Getting
of deaths
5G
of
ready
people
is
who
expected to
unfortunately
cost
got placebo
providers
in this trial.
$275
So
billion
it can work in that
over 7
scenario.
years in
We
the
have that
US
data,
alone.
which is exciting.
Look for the first
but that
5G
isn't yet
service to
authorized
pop
by
up
the
in
FDA.
big
We're
cities
taking that
sometime in
forward for their review
2019.
soon.
So, Doctor, I'm getting the sense that it's not fully in the marketplace, that there are some bottlenecks. Is that correct? Am I correct in inferring that? And what do we need? What do you need to do to get it fully distributed?
Yeah, thank you. There's it's distributed. It's out there on the shelves of hospitals and infusion centers and healthcare facilities around the country. There's a couple of misconceptions and a couple of bottlenecks that are slowing down patient use. The first is that patients and their doctors often don't know about it. It's relatively new, and information hasn't been fully disseminated. So we're trying to work with the federal government to make sure the word gets out in the right way. That's important because people, if they wait until they're really sick and hospitalized, this is no longer an appropriate treatment. So the window of intervention is still early, and that takes some thinking to say, okay, I have COVID-19, I may not feel awful yet, but I know I have these risk factors. So that's the first step, is awareness. The second is actually getting an infusion, which is something that happens all the time for cancer patients or patients with autoimmune diseases, but it's new for infectious diseases. And so hospitals and healthcare facilities have been setting up around the country
When people think of Vladimir Putin, they think of capital P power, and that's exactly the impression he creates. Whether it's physical power, firing different weapons, riding in various James Bond-esque modes of transportation, or tossing hapless opponents in jail, or political power, ruling his own country with an iron fist, crushing his political opposition, or, most recently, being accused of meddling in foreign elections for his own benefit. This is how Vladimir Putin went from a poor, tough kid in Leningrad to a KGB spy to the very symbol of modern Russia.
Doctor, we're pretty much out of time, but can you give us a quick
Putin was born
idea
in
of the cost and whether it's covered by insurance?
which is now St. Petersburg. His father was a factory foreman and his mother a homemaker.
In our discussions
It is widely said that Putin's public-facing tough guy persona can be traced back to him getting into fights when he was younger, which paved the way for him to take up judo. After getting a law degree from Leningrad State University, Putin joined the KGB Foreign Intelligence Service. He spent 16 years in the KGB. When Putin returned to Russia, he began his political career.
Patients shouldn't be inhibited
I think I might be running out to my nearest healthcare
That's the end for sure.
Sounds like we should all be getting this.
I'm a little
thrived in
All right,
subjects
Doctor. Thank you so
administration
much for
because
joining us, Dr. Dan Skoronsky. He is Chief Scientific Officer for Eli Lilly and Company, talking to us about one of their therapeutics that has proven to be extraordinarily effective. And Bonnie, it just seems like, why wouldn't you?
And those people soon brought
Yeah, I mean, I
Putin
guess
over
you'd
to
have to be a
Moscow to
little
work
bit
in
brave
Yeltsin's
to go
administration,
for it,
where
but
he
at the same
quickly
time, it
climbed the
doesn't sound like
political
there's much of a
ladder.
downside.
Yeah, So certainly, I guess, for those folks that do test positive, here is a great treatment for them. So that's good news. We'll have more coming up.
Around this time, Yeltsin and the